Buccaneers informed rookie Shilo Sanders today that he's being waived.
You better believe that. I take care of mine, and I've always have, and y'all know what I mean.
On August 24th, Shilo Sanders got cut loose by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just 24 hours after he threw a punch that got him ejected from their preseason finale against the Bills. The son of NFL legend Deion Coach Prime Sanders has now broken his silence, and his reaction is something nobody in the NFL saw coming. Let's get into it. The fall from grace. The NFL is the coldest stage in all of pro sports, where dreams can shatter in a single heartbeat and where even the most promising careers can crash down over one bad move. For Shilo Sanders, the 25-year-old son of Hall of Famer Coach Prime, that moment hit like a thunderbolt on August 24th, 2025, when the Buccaneers made a decision that sent shockwaves through the entire football world. Shilo wasn't just another undrafted rookie trying to hang on. This was a young man with a serious college resume, 229 tackles, 6 interceptions, and 7 forced fumbles across South Carolina, Jackson State, and Colorado. His college career was a story of grind and grit, following his father's path from school to school, always battling to carve out his own lane in the giant shadow of one of the greatest defensive players the game has ever seen. The Buccaneers thought they spotted something special when they signed him right after the 2025 NFL Draft, with Coach Prime announcing it live on Twitch, celebrating in front of thousands of fans.
Just one more question
Yes,
for you.
sir.
Obviously, Folsom put in the artificial turf
Yes, sir.
this summer. What do you like about that look of the turf and the feel of it? Did the players enjoy it?
I like the look of it because it's beautiful.
The whole family was lit with excitement, and for a moment it looked like the Sanders dynasty had just added another NFL chapter. But the league is ruthless, and it humbles even the most confident athletes. Shilo's contract told the truth about how shaky his spot really was. A 3-year deal worth $2,965,000, but with only $157,200 guaranteed. That tiny guarantee wasn't just numbers on paper, it was a warning. In the NFL, nothing is promised, and everything has to be snatched with sweat, sacrifice, and relentless dedication. During training camp and those early preseason games, Shilo flashed glimpses of the same fire that made him a standout in college. Head coach Todd Bowles even spoke highly at first, calling him very aggressive, very young, very hungry, while noting how much he could bring on special teams. The staff respected his football IQ and how quickly he connected with teammates. But football is a cruel game of inches, and those inches can be the line between making history or watching your dream vanish. Shilo's preseason stats told the story: 4 tackles across 3 games, solid, but not the kind of numbers that scream roster lock when you're fighting for one of the last spots.
But some of these, sadly, is going to come to an end. Some of these guys are not going to get, what do we call it, Ocho? Practice squad opportunities. Yeah. Some of these guys, it's over. It's the end of the road.
Then came August 23rd, 2025, a preseason matchup against the Buffalo Bills that should have been just another game. Instead, it turned into the moment that flipped Shilo's entire NFL shot upside down. The incident that sealed his fate was reckless and costly. After getting flagged for pass interference earlier, Shilo got into a heated back and forth with Bills tight end Davidson. In a move he'd instantly regret, he threw a punch after the play, earning an immediate ejection.
Buccaneers informed rookie Shilo Sanders today that he's being waived. His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, Robert Bailey, a former teammate of mine with the Ravens, added, "We're hoping he'd get claimed off waivers."
The sight was brutal, a Sanders being walked off the field for throwing hands in a preseason game that didn't even matter. The optics couldn't have been worse, especially when you're carrying the weight of a legendary last name. Coach Todd Bowles didn't sugarcoat a thing when he spoke on it. His words were sharp, final, and full of disappointment. This wasn't just standard coach talk. It was the sound of a man who had seen way too many careers crash from one bad decision. What made it sting even more is that Shilo was genuinely liked inside the building. Reports say the Buccaneers saw him as respectful, well-mannered, and good energy all around. His agents even confirmed he felt instant remorse after the incident, but by then, the damage was already done. But in the NFL, being a good dude and showing remorse isn't always enough to erase a bad decision, especially when you're an undrafted rookie with no real leverage. The brutal truth is teams pour millions into their draft picks, and when roster spots run thin, those investments will always get first dibs, while undrafted players who slip up pay the price. The fallout hit fast and cold. Less than 24 hours after the punch on August 24th, 2025, the Buccaneers made their move. As every team around the league trimmed down to the mandatory 53-man roster, Shilo Sanders got the phone call every NFL hopeful dreads he was waived. The news spread like wildfire on social media and across sports networks. Suddenly, the son of one of football's most legendary names, a young man raised under the crushing weight of impossible expectations, was told point blank his services weren't needed. And the symbolism, you couldn't ignore it. This wasn't just another roster cut. It felt like a dynasty grinding to a shocking, abrupt halt. Coach Prime's son being sent packing triggered a full-blown media firestorm, stirring heated debates about nepotism, racism, and whether the league truly plays fair when it comes to second chances. Before Shilo even had the chance to speak out, NFL legends were already jumping into the conversation, and their reactions couldn't have been more split. The loudest and most important voice came from the man who had the most invested in Shilo's journey, Deion Coach Prime Sanders himself.
Most definitely, he's my son. I'm proud of my kids, all of them. And I've prepared my kids for any and everything that could possibly happen in life and in sports.
Never one to duck the spotlight or a tough conversation, Coach Prime addressed his son's cut with the same calm, fire, and confidence that carried him through a Hall of Fame career. His response struck a perfect balance, pride in his son mixed with a clear-eyed acceptance of reality, and his words didn't just land in Tampa, they echoed way beyond this one situation. We're praying he gets another shot with a team, but if he doesn't, the plans are already set for what he's gonna do next. The Sanders family is gonna be good with or without football.
That's part of fathering, that's part of parenting, that's part of having a relationship. So he is mentally where he needs to be, physically where he needs to be. We're praying that he gets another opportunity to go with a team. He's gonna be straight. All the Sanders are gonna be straight, with or without football. You better believe that.
This wasn't just a father hyping up his son. It was a calculated move from a man who knows how to control a narrative. Coach Prime understood that this moment would define how the Sanders legacy handled adversity, and his message was crystal clear. They had prepared for this. They had backup plans, and they weren't about to let one setback break them down. But the real gem, Deion dropped a hint that made Shilo's silence even more mysterious. Shilo isn't just a football player. He's got other lanes of talent. This wasn't empty coach talk or exaggerated parental bragging. It was a clue that the family always knew football might not be Shilo's forever lane, and that they had already been lining up alternatives in case the NFL didn't work out. The professional tone came next from Shilo's powerhouse agents, Drew Rosenhaus and Robert Bailey. These are big names in NFL circles, and they released a carefully worded statement acknowledging reality while keeping hope alive. We're hoping he gets claimed on waivers, they said, making sure to also highlight how the Buccaneers appreciated Shilo as both a player and a person. What stood out most in their comments was how much they leaned on his character. They pointed out that Tampa Bay saw Shilo as a respectful young man, always polite, and that he showed immediate remorse after the incident. This wasn't just spin, it was a deliberate attempt to protect his image and keep doors open for another chance. The media went wild with takes and hot opinions from every direction, and then came Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe dropping one of the deepest insights on his Nightcap podcast. For the first time in 25 years, somebody has told you you're not good enough, he said, cutting straight to the soul of the story.
Sometimes your last name can be a blessing and a curse. It's not normal that free agents have breaking news that they're being released. He's an undrafted free agent. Mm-hmm. And because his name is Sanders, the blessing and the curse, people say, well, Shannon, he only got an opportunity because his last name is Sanders. This is the very first time. And it's really hard because think about it, Ocho. He's 20. I think he's 24, 25.
This wasn't just about football. It was about a young man staring failure in the face for maybe the very first time. Sharpe's take hit different because it exposed something people forget about kids of superstar athletes. They grow up in a bubble where success is expected, and that makes the first taste of rejection feel like an earthquake. But of course, not everyone in the media felt sympathy for Shilo. Some voices were quick to flip the script. Antonio Brown, never one to dodge controversy, jumped straight on social media with his usual unfiltered fire. He wrote, "Whole Sanders fam gonna end up getting cut out the league. Not even their fault. NFL couldn't humble their dad, so they'll repay kids." His words were brutal, but they struck a nerve, feeding into a growing theory online that the league was out to humble Coach Prime through his children. And that theory started gaining traction fast. Fans began pointing out how unusual it was for Shiloh's release to get wall-to-wall coverage. Like Shannon Sharpe said, "When's the last time an undrafted free agent made breaking news for getting waived?" He had a point. Cuts like this happen every single day, but somehow this one blew up on every sports network. The social media response exploded. Supporters rallied hard behind the Sanders name. Many argued that bias and racism were baked into the situation, with comments spreading like wildfire. "I'm starting to believe the NFL wants to make the Sanders men look bad on purpose." Others questioned why dynasties like the Mannings never faced this kind of harsh spotlight, asking if privilege was shielding certain families from scrutiny. Quickly, the debate spun away from just football. It became about race, legacy, and fairness in the NFL itself. But not everyone was buying it. Critics clapped back, saying the waiver was strictly about performance, not politics, and that Shiloh's last name shouldn't give him a free pass. Some comments got downright cold, like "couldn't happen to a better kid," family, that showed how some fans felt the Sanders clan enjoyed hype and special treatment that most players could never dream of. The fight got even messier when people argued over the punch itself. Was it self-defense or flat-out immaturity? One side said Shilo had every right to swing if he felt provoked. The other side called it an unforgivable mistake that proved he wasn't ready for the league.
I know you can't throw punches in this league. I mean, that's inexcusable. They're going to get you every time. Got to grow from that.
Analysts on ESPN, including Dan Orlovsky and Stephen A. Smith, dove deep into it, dissecting fairness, family legacy, and what it means when a famous last name follows you into the pros. The bigger conversation soon outgrew Shiloh's situation and turned into a cultural debate about the pressure on kids of legendary athletes. Shannon Sharpe and Chad Ochochinco Johnson even broke it down on their show, highlighting how growing up in the shadow of greatness can be both a blessing and a curse. What made this analysis hit so deep was the reminder that motivation doesn't always come easy when you grow up with privilege. For athletes from wealthy, successful families, the hunger that fuels so many others can be harder to find because financial security is already there. That internal drive to fight through setbacks can feel different when survival isn't on the line.
Coming from our situations, Ocho, it's easy to be motivated.
Oh, yeah.
Being hungry, being hot, being cold, it's easy. Being rained on, it's easy to develop motivation. But you know what? My brother had a very interesting take on a dream. He said, you know what a dream is, Ocho? A dream that comes true? He said it's a gift to yourself. A dream is a gift to yourself. I had very similar dreams.
And yet, through all the debates, the hot takes, and the endless commentary, one voice was missing: Shilo Sanders himself. His silence became louder by the day, leaving everyone asking, was this a calculated move? Was he taking legal or professional advice? Or was he just privately trying to process the biggest blow of his career? The longer he stayed quiet, the more the questions piled up. In the 72 hours after his release from the Buccaneers, something almost unheard of happened. Shilo went completely silent. No posts, no interviews, no subtle hints on Instagram stories. In today's world where athletes share every emotion online, his total blackout stood out like a flashing red light. This wasn't just unusual, it was shocking. In a league where every roster cut, every workout, and every thought becomes content for social media, Shiloh's choice to stay completely quiet said more than words ever could. It spoke about his mindset, his character, and maybe even a long-term strategy to control his image. By August 27, 2025, research confirmed what fans already suspected. Shilo hadn't said a single word about being waived. No statement, no reaction, nothing. And that silence itself became the headline, sparking endless speculation about what was really going on inside his head. Think about it. This was a 25-year-old who had just been told, possibly for the very first time, that he wasn't good enough. As Shannon Sharpe pointed out, that type of rejection hits different when your whole life has been framed around success and expectation. Most players his age would have lashed out, posted a thank you, or at least thrown some shade. But Shilo, he chose total silence, making the mystery even bigger. But Shilo chose a completely different route. His social media, which once gave fans glimpses of his personality and NFL grind, went dark, completely dark. No goodbyes to teammates, no thank you post to the Bucs, no fiery message about proving doubters wrong, nothing at all. The silence was so heavy, it started to feel intentional, like a calculated move rather than an oversight. What made it even more intriguing was what Shilo wasn't doing. He wasn't following the usual playbook athletes use after a career blow. No emotional appeals to other teams, no excuses, no sympathy-baiting posts for fans to rally behind. Instead, it looked like he was playing from a whole different handbook, one that put dignity and privacy above public relations. The only glimpses into his mindset came secondhand. His agents confirmed he felt instant remorse after the punch that led to his ejection and waiver, showing that privately he was dealing with the weight of his actions. Then came Deion's words. Coach Prime insisted Shilo was mentally where he needs to be, physically where he needs to be. That was a clear sign the family was keeping things locked tight, handling it all inside their circle. This move stood in total contrast to the way most modern athletes respond to adversity. In today's era, public image and branding are everything, but Shilo refused to play that game. His silence was either a bold show of maturity or a shocking break from the usual playbook that could cost him opportunities. And this wasn't just about him being quiet. It exposed the unique struggle kids of superstar athletes face. As Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochochenko Johnson broke down on their podcast, living under the shadow of a legendary parent brings pressures that regular athletes will never know. Shilo's silence could have been his way of finally separating his story from his family's spotlight. What made it all the more fascinating is the timing. That silence came during the most crucial window of his career. On August 27, 2025, Shilo cleared waivers without a single team claiming him, making him an unrestricted free agent, and the mystery only deepened because now everyone wanted to know, was the silence a setback or part of a bigger plan? This next chapter was everything for Shilo. His future in the NFL now hung on what moves he made next. The waiver process itself told a bigger story about how the league really viewed him. When a player gets waived, every team has 24 hours to claim him off the wire based on priority, and in Shilo's case, nobody did. But that didn't automatically mean he was trash or talentless. The odds are brutal. Only 4 to 6% of undrafted rookies even make a 53-man roster. His unclaimed status simply opened new doors. Now, as a free agent, he could negotiate with anyone, even outside the NFL. The Toronto Argonauts had already staked a claim to his CFL rights, so Canada was on the table. There was even talk of him circling back to Tampa Bay's practice squad, since the Bucs hadn't completely closed the door. Analysts tossed around other potential landing spots too, like the Cleveland Browns, where he could reunite with his brother Shador, or the Denver Broncos, who were looking thin at safety. Still, through all the noise, Shilo stayed silent. He let the world speculate while he kept his cards close, matching the same energy his father spoke with, reminding everyone that Shilo had other talents, other plans, and the family wasn't going to let football define their worth. That silence started to feel less like hesitation and more like strategy. And honestly, the plan worked. While critics tore him down and supporters lifted him up, the Sanders family carried themselves with calm dignity. Deion's sharp, measured words paired with Shilo's strategic quietness painted a picture of a family that knew adversity was coming and had already prepared for it. But the real twist? Shilo's silence flipped into something bigger, a rebellion against today's culture where athletes are expected to spill every thought online. In a world that demands instant posts, tweets, and reactions, Shilo's refusal to play that game made his story even more fascinating and maybe even more powerful. And now the million-dollar question, what's next for Shilo Sanders? Is he plotting a return to the NFL, heading to the CFL, or stepping into an entirely new lane outside of football? One thing's for sure, you don't want to miss how this story unfolds, so make sure you hit that like button, smash that subscribe, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on Shilo's silence and future moves. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.